So I think now we can start our session. So first of all, welcome all on behalf of the CiRCLETECH team. My name is Mohammed Jaber, and together with the research group number 3, we are organizing this talk today about sustainability in integrated design engineering. Our guest today is Professor Sándor Vajna. He is a distinguished scholar and industry leader. Professor Vajna has made significant contributions to the fields of mechanical engineering and computer-aided design. And his work spans academia and industry and has been recognized with numerous awards for his outstanding contributions. So I would like to welcome you again, Professor Sándor, and give you the floor. You can share your screen and start the presentation.
Okay. Will you put on my presentation, or do I have to put up the presentation?
I think you can share your screen and
We'll talk today about sustainability in a product development approach called integrated design engineering, which is a quite holistic approach to create new products. So it's called IDE for integrated design engineering, and it allows me to consider and to unite all activities in product development. It allows me to integrate all activities which are necessary to create a product, and it does it in a way which is mathematically based, which allows me a permanent check of every activity in every second of the product development process. So it's a quite holistic approach, which is already used in industry, and it delivers very interesting results in question of integrity and taking in mind of other possibilities. So, but we talk about sustainability today. So what is it? So first of all, sustainability is a principle of actions in the usage of resources. And the aim is to ensure that needs are met on the long term by preserving the nature's regenerative capacity, so that we never do use more than the nature can recreate. And this concerns all systems involved, especially living organisms and ecosystems. So that's the base point of sustainability. And integrated design engineering puts to the sustainability idea the handling of all kinds of products, which could be physical, virtual, or procedural. So a software is as well a product as a product where you can put your hands on. IDE covers all phases of the product life cycle. So from the idea, the creation, the application, then you use the product, and at the end of product's life, it is possible to recirculate it and to make new products out of it. And this is what we call, or what is called by Baumgartner, cradle to cradle. But when you're doing this kind of things, you have to take in mind the mutual influences on all different activities. Third, sustainability balances social, environmental, economic characteristics and their respective objectives. And this is true for products, for processes, for which we have appropriate approaches, processing and mainly supporting means. And sustainability takes into account all environmental, social, economic requirements throughout, and this is the main difference, the whole life cycle of a product. And it looks on technical, social, and economic requirements, where sustainability makes sure that within the product life cycle, all these influences are balanced out. So, to put it together, to subsumize it, sustainability in integrated design engineering underlines the high responsibility of product development and the developer Because in product development phases,
Professor, sorry for interruption. Can you see my screen?
I see the screen. How lovely.
Okay. Is this the right slide or the previous one?
Give me the previous one.
Yes, this one then. Okay.
Okay, we are in between this. Can I move it forward, or will you move it forward?
I will be moving forward, but just tell me next, and I will be just clicking that.
Lovely.
No problem.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations that you made it work.
Mhm.
Gentlemen, can you see the charts as well?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good, lovely. And I see that I have to look on this because my camera, usually this morning it worked very nicely, and now it does not work. Now you see my face. You are happy not to see my shoes, but that's okay. Right, so we arrived at this chart. Here we are. And this is a general pattern of how we can see sustainability into the creation and usage of a product. What you see in the middle is the product life cycle. And the different colors show where the engineering has the most input. Is the orange color in the middle of the left-hand side. There is a vertical red line. That is the point where we hand over the idea, the concept of the product over to production. Then the product is produced, it is controlled, it is distributed, it's used and serviced, and at the very end of the product's life, it should be hopefully recycled, the material, or not so hopefully to put as waste. What you see around the picture is as well the point that is a lot of money flowing in order to create a product, and there is much smaller occasions to get in the money from the customer. So it's a quite complicated system to balance it out. But anyhow, one point to mention is the accounting boundary of an enterprise. And this is quite tricky in calculating benefits to this point of view. So come on, here we go. Now, what are the tasks and contents to achieve sustainability? There is a triangle in the middle, which is formed by the environment in which I work, by the economy in which I have to live, by the social situation of the people creating the products. And there are three other influences. This is the social environment in which I'm working, the environmental economy in which I have to realize my products, and the social economy where I put in the rights and the necessities and the ethics of the people to work within it. When we look on the left-hand side, we think of the task of sustainable product development. We have to create products which are, of course, easy to use. So I don't need instructions how to use a product. A product must be used, and this is possible without big paper and teaching. So this is what we call usability. Next one is it has easy to be built. So producibility with low energy, low waste, high output, and so on. It must be ecologically sound, so sweet sustainability. It must be affordable to purchase and to use it, to maintenance it, to reuse it, and to recycle it. Shall not cost me a heaven. It must be socially just as well, and it must be created for the long-term use. So we have to take the responsibility and to provide remedies for all the possible negative impacts which can happen along the entire product life cycle. That was too fast. So, sorry, this is a professor talking to you. We need some basics. Please excuse me or do something else. Definition. We can't live without definition. So what is integrated design engineering, which houses sustainability? It's a human-centered approach. This is the main important. It is organized in a certain way. The point is below the arrow to the right, that we do describe products not directly by size, weight, and dimensions. We describe product by 11 equal but not identical attributes, which focus on the components, on the parameters which you would like to have from the product. A parameter is, for example, I must be able to handle it. It must be a not too heavy product. It must be good looking. So we describe the product exactly from the point of view of the later user, and not from the point of view of a company who makes it. And this allows us to put into the product much more capabilities than with standard product development. So development processes and projects are handled using an approach of trial and error. As we are in academia, ladies and gentlemen, we call it test, operate, test, exit. We do something, see whether it fits or not. If yes, go further. If not, retry. And we live in a dynamic and flexible environment, which is the same thing as in real life. So this is a quite sophisticated, not simple, but very well working approach for doing that. As you all like pictures, see how this worked. On the top left side, you see the main issue from ID, it's human centricity. We design for the human user, not teach the human user to how to use it. And we make everything by team and not by only one single person. And the team members come from all participating or affected areas and disciplines. So that's why it's possible to create products which are multidisciplinary, applicable. These people who work together have common cultures of communication and working, so they can treat and act in an integrated and a holistic manner, and have, of course, interdisciplinary knowledge. Now, what happens there? On the left-hand side, you see a possible customer. This was me about 20 years ago. I never thought nobody would see me. Okay, this customer has a demand. And we transfer, as IDE people, his demand into a neutral description of the product performance. Then we trigger the development process based on a holistic procedure model. And we create the product model. And we permanently exchange with the customer. But, and this is the main point, every single working step is based on sustainable approaches. If it is not sustainable, we will forget it. If you please look on the right-hand side of this horizontal block, there is a green arrow pointing back that we take what is over from the end of product, and we recondition the parts, or we recirculate, or we remake them, so that we keep all the material, we keep them within the process. We can see it, this is for the academical part of us, so we can see it this way as well. All the system activities are based into human centricity on the one hand side, and are based into sustainable approaches on the other hand side. One is interesting, little bit printed bold, is the holistic IDE process model. We have to take into mind, even if we cut down work into several departments, we have to keep in mind that we have to think the whole model all the time. Otherwise, we can't create, and we would not get results which would fit the customer's needs. Let's have now a little bit of look on sustainability. This is different curves who show at number one how the population will grow, and it's interesting that after 2050 population will decrease. This is an assumption. Whether this is true, we will see, but the borders of the world are coming to a limit, and so the world cannot support any too longer so many new people, and so many people using so much of the world's possible resources. The food generation is going down as well, and it will always be a gap between the growth of people and the growth of available food. The industrial production will decrease because of more and more missing of resources. The environmental pollution will it's quite difficult to say. It will decrease hopefully as well, but which is much more complicated, more problematic, is the decrease of resources. And we can't create new resources. We have to look for a second world, and this is not so easy. May I open now a parenthesis and put in my very personal opinion. To my opinion, it was not the right point to close down atomic power plants. One should have them to increase their safety, but this is the only way we can get energy without ruining the resources of the world. Finish parenthesis, finish with private opinion. Let's go further for the part here. Now, of course, the more we do, the more we drive, the more we heat, we have an increase of the energy-related carbon dioxide emissions worldwide. But there is some good news. From 2014, the increase flattened. So the usage is high, but it didn't make up. But what we have to keep in mind that we have a climate change due to the fact that too many burning ashes are blown into the atmosphere, and which forms a kind of an umbrella around the world, which does not allow to get heat away from the world, but to keep the heat in. And this means to an increase of average temperature per year, and we are somewhere now between 1 and 2. But 2 is already the border, because then Africa starts to be not livable, and this is not the point which we shall cross. We should be below the 2 degrees centigrade border. Now have a look on the sources and the reasons why certain environmental impacts happen, of course, because of the product life cycle. And the only impacts which are really to count, which can't be recycled, are the emissions. And the emissions are, at every action, we need some kind of heat, we need some kind of power, and we create this one, and we have to somehow get the work done, and this creates emissions. And this is, in my idea, the most dangerous part which we have. We have to, because of every activity makes emissions. Even the distribution makes emissions, the usage makes emissions, and the waste treatment makes emissions. But if you would avoid waste, we would have a very extraordinary step forward to get rid of this problem. So, what are the challenges for creating sustainability? We have to look on 2 circles, which is the human situation and the world in which the human lives in. This is hopefully I pronounced it right, anthroposphere. And there are some keywords on this one. So one hand side the climate change, other hand side the resources shortage, and the growth of population. And if we continue to grow this way, we have in about 70 years of time, we have looked for a second world where all these people can go, which would otherwise destroy the world for others. Nevertheless, there has been a lot of work being done on sustainability rules and knowledge bases. I don't want to go into detail with all these abbreviations, but for example, on the top right side, the post-growth economy and the sustainable development discourse are real good possibilities to put down the increase of waste, which we actually do have now. However, we have to take in mind the cost development curves, and as from this picture was made somewhere in 2003, what we can see is that the renewable energies costs will decrease as the technology which we have for that increase. But the cost for the fossil and nuclear energy will heavily increase, And that's why we have to go down. We have now 2024. We have to swap as fast, as much as possible to renewable energies. This is the nice curve. We have to do it. And everybody starts to change the world with his own work. So do we always have to drive with a car? I can say you, if you drive only the car, your medical costs will increase when you get older. Do we have to fly for nothing from A to B? You can get the same thing both in Budapest and in Miskolc, so there is no need to go to Budapest, and so on. One main role of the carbon balance which we have to achieve is the role of soil where we could store the carbon inside in order to provide it as nourishment for new plants and everything which can grow. And this is, if you see below the numbers, per year we do evacuate about 4,000 gigatons of carbon into the air. We can only store about 1,600 gigatons in the soil, and we can store a lot of 39,000 gigatons in the oceans. However, the more carbon dioxide we store in the oceans, the warmer the oceans get. So this is a problem which we can't that easy solve. So the point is better not to create as much carbon as we do now, but to avoid to put it away. The only thing which we can do, if you have borlong or where you get coal out, that you press it into the soil. This is at least for the next 5,000 years a possible storage area. However, but then we have to rethink it when we open after 5,000 years. We open these places. Why is this critical? Because we have to keep in mind that the planet can end. We have so-called guardrails, which tell us that we can't overuse the word. We can overuse it exactly one time, and if we then try to overuse it again, the world will collapse. So this is not the point in which we shall arrive. We have to keep all these guardrails, like climate change, like stratospheric ozone depletion, like aerosols in the atmosphere, like the acidification of oceans and the increase of their temperature, like the enormous use of fresh water. By the way, if you buy a new car, have you an idea how many water you need to manufacture this car? It's more than 1,000 liters. So a ton of water is needed to create a car. And the question is this necessary? And the answer is, if we would research, we would find no. If we would a little bit pay more for the car, we would find that we can save a lot of money. So everything is somehow interlinked. So these are the system where the guardrails are for the world, and we can't cross them. We have to keep them in mind when we do things. Of course, there had been some political issues, some points to do selected events, started more than 50 years ago. And it's still not ended. The latest conference was the 2017 IPCC special report on the objectives to reach a goal of 1.5 climate temperature growth during the next years. But you know conferences. Everybody is driven by the conference feeling, and everybody promises a lot of things, but when you go home, you find out that the bigger part of your promises. See? So that we have to work not on congresses, we have to work day by day to get rid of these problems. This picture is one of the most famous pictures for the sustainable goals, to link the planetary guardrails with the sustainable goals. We call it a so-called wedding cake. And this is a big wedding because you see there are 3 levels of cake. And you know that the bride and the groom start with the first on the top, to eat the first piece of cake, and all the relatives which you don't like eat the last level of the cakes below. But I don't want to read you all the 16 or the 15 different goals which are there, but this gives a good picture what has to be done when, and the time frame goes upward. So we have to start with 17 and so forth. Now have a look on the planetary and social boundaries. What we discussed so far is put together in the planetary boundaries on the left-hand side of the cylinder. Then we have the product life cycle, and we have to adjust the product life cycle from product planning to product development to production, product use, and product utilization to the boundaries, and to play with these possibilities in the areas of food creation, of health, of gender equality, if you want that, social equality, energy, and so on and so on. So it's like juggling with 17 balls in the air. Try not to let them fall on the ground. For achieve the target goal, which can be said together as zero hunger on the earth, it dates back almost 10 years ago, 2015 in Paris, and we want to go to the curve number 4, the 2 degrees curve. So you see what we have to do by cutting down emissions as much as we can. And well, we have 2023 where we are now. We should have been a little bit lower. And of course, by this way, we can open up a philosophical discussions. Why shall the people in other countries like Africa or in parts of Asia be punished that we, Europeans and Americans, use the world so much, and they try to want to do it as well, but if everybody on the world lives the same way as Europeans and especially Americans do, then we can close the world down. Perhaps not our generation, but the next one for sure. So see the problem, and that's why we have to save first, and we have to make it sustainable. There are some aids for doing that. And this is, for example, the Eco Compass according to a gentleman called Fussler, and down left you see the internet link to that. The point is that we have to put down from the green curve to a curve which is the reference product and reference curve, which makes only 2 correspondent to a reference product, only very low increase of impact in order to keep the 2 degrees border which we have. This is one possible aid. The other possible aid is a life cycle design strategy wheel, or the LIDS wheel, where you can see you have a reference product which makes a lot of bad things, and you shall come to an improved concept. But the improved concept is not a general one. It's according to the industry you are in, to the activities you are doing. So both the reference, the improved concept, and the actual product has to be created for an own application within your environment. So this is one point one has to keep in mind. And now, given some hints for doing the right things in the right time, it is to make some kind of methods and sequences of a form of sustainable development. So you have to, what one can do, there are checklists, there are matrices, there are analysis method, there are low carbon analysis, and so on. Look it up. It helps you a lot to create new products, new services, new activities in a way that it is economically responsible and sustainable. If we try to find some kind of ethical evaluation of possible errors, then we have to make sure that we only follow points, so these are the 2 stars, which strong sustainability. So these are the point that we need to find out that nature is not dispensable. Nature can't, for example, remake iron. We have not enough elements for this one. So this is more or less a possibility to show what can be done and show better what should be avoided. Yeah? So now if you want to avoid something, we have to find out the factors which influence sustainable consumption, and see the green points or the plus points are those which we should support. So we have people said everyone has to know, has to have environmental knowledge, have observation of his behavior, have an observation of his emotion, and has an increase of confidence into that we can save the world, if you like that. And situational factors is more or less negative. So higher prices or less availability, this will happen if we use the word as we do actually. Positively, subjective standard and social standards and so on. But see, we can influence it a lot. Everybody can influence it a lot. We don't need a special government to do that. So this is really private, personal work and supporting sustainability. Now, sorry, this is a typical professor's chart. Not readable, needs to be explained, and all the students would love it. I don't want to go too much into it. If you see down in the middle, sufficiency goes to the right. So if VDS is situation that I use too much money, I use too much resources of the world, and what I have to achieve, what is my goal, is what is called on the right-hand side, sufficiency and collaborative consumption. We are individualists, ladies and gentlemen, and the question is, if you're individualist, everybody wants to have a car, even if only 5 persons need one car, where they have to agree upon how they will use this car. And the same is good for forks and knives, not for boots, obviously, but think about using with others, collaborative consumption, and so on. Now, what we can do in a way is not the left-hand side, where you see the biggest word is disposal. We have to do it on the right-hand side, and there is one word which is called rental trade. So we do not buy an object which we use. We buy the usage of an object. It's like car sharing. But you can as well talk about TV sharing. You can as well talk about house sharing, whatever you want. So that the number of objects which are there and of which the need is 2 or 3 times realized, so we need only 1/2 or 1/3 of these objects, we can avoid if we do a rental trade in the situation of specialized companies who rent me certain things. Could be housing, could be not toothbrushes, semmi fogkeffe az biztos, but we could do everything else that allows to create a closed loop of recycling and mainly of reuse of products which we used before. So let's come closer to the end of my presentation. I have 3 minutes. There are 5 theorems. One thing is interdisciplinary cooperation, networked thinking, and looking on problems and systems in a global context. Second, there is no general proposition to solve the problem. It is always dependent on the actual situation. However, if we keep in mind the guidelines and so forth, then we can arrive at a solution which fits my problems, perhaps your problems, but not the problems of Esztergom or Debrecen or Budapest, if you like. Theorem 3, nothing is true from the beginning. So we have to question everything. We have to use humility and not cockiness. We don't know better. Even an engineer has to accept that he or she does not know better. We have to look and take our consequences. So, and then we are maybe perhaps the crown of creation could be, no crown available up here, but we are unfortunately as well a part of nature. And if the nature is not good enough, can't support us, then we, do we want that? No, right. So we have to do in theorem 3, theorem 4, we have to recognize early enough, good enough, what is bad about the old and what is good about the new. Not everything which is old is bad. Not everything which is new is good. But people at these days, I see it at my grandchildren, everything what is new is good. Forget about it. Have to think about it. And theorem 5 is the most important. Don't talk, begin. And if you have problems to begin, start it with yourself, and you will find out interesting things. And when you did it for you excellently, then look for allies who help you, with whom you can go together and do the things. And so you will grow like a cancer in a positive, of course, positive approach of a cancer to make good for the world in which we all live and from which we all can't escape. So action and means is the chart to keep for you in memory. I won't read it to you now. These are what you heard now so far is in this summary. And if it can help you, the better. If not, and you need questions, you will get my address from Professor Vajna. And she will, and she, of course, she knows everything which I was discussing here. She knows very well as well. So just a line, if you're interested in reading books with no sex and no crime, mainly what I talked here is based on this second book from the left, first edition 2020, the English edition of Integrated Design Engineering. And there is an application series, unfortunately it's so far in German, but we're working on it to to make it in English. And everything what I told you here is you could read it. Those who can read German take the first edition 2020. Those who can read English can take the 2020. There's not much difference in it. And that's where I am. I thank you very much for your acceptance, and nagyon szépen köszönöm, vége az előadásnak, és ha lennének még kérdések, akkor nagyon szívesen állok most. Azt szeretném mondani, nekem egy nagy öröm és dicsőség, hogy a Miskolci Egyetemnek egyik díszdoktora lettem pár év ezelőtt, és még mindig nagyon szívesen dolgozok a Miskolci Egyetemben, és főleg természetesen Bogner professzor úrhölgyel. Köszönöm szépen.
Köszönöm szépen, Professor. Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. It contained a lot of useful information regarding sustainability, and I like the idea how you went gradually with the ideas of production and also the need for sustainability. And maybe I have a lot of questions.
Go ahead.
But maybe before my questions, I would ask the
Audience.
the attendance if they have any questions. Please, yes, Professor Bogner, you can start.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the very nice presentation. Somehow we have solved the problems. My question, I have two questions. One of them is that how do you estimate the ratio of the design in the possibility of the saving of emission in a product? And the second one would be that if we start introducing the car sharing, which is known in other big cities, what will be the opinion of the vehicle companies? Because their profit depends on the number of cars they sell.
Well, of course, 2 questions is already too much for a male elder professor, but I try to. The one hand side is what you have heard here. I hope I answered this first question right, but if not, please just go into it and say rubbish, and then we try. What I put in here are no more concepts. So these are all possible steps which are done, not all together. That's the biggest problem, but all are done and all have proved their efficiency so far. So one can save money with it, which is much more important for a lot of people compared to that they can save the world with it. So this is no theory. This is all reality. And it's only, the point is only to find the relevant cities and people. And there is one concept which I like very much, which is called cradle to cradle. I think you heard about it. Not why it's a German who made it, Mr. Baumgartner, but the cradle to cradle is exactly the recycling point, that you run around. You create it from cradle, you use it and put it back. Yes, I know. Some ladies would now think, well, if I could recycle my husband from cradle to cradle, he would be nicer to me, he would be not so boring. Okay, my host is looking critical. You are not married, are you? Are you married? Mr.
Depending on who are you are asking.
I asking you because I
Me,
know that
yes, I've been married for the last 10 years, yes. So
very good. So you should know what I'm saying, right? You would go with me. So that's what I wanted to say, is really the point that we can make our life much easier if we forget this approach that we just throw away things. We take it, use it, throw it away. If you learn that taking it is okay, using it is okay if you don't overestimate, over-exaggerate it, but then we use it in a way that my son or your uncle or whatsoever can use it as well. So this is one of the issues to answer that. Professor Bognar, I'm an old professor. Can you give me the second part of your question, please? Sorry.
Sorry, I had 2 questions. One of them is that how much emission can be saved on the design in a product?
Yeah, let's answer first. First of all, the design of a product is the source of all evil, right? Everything what can happen is created in the design phase. One of my first picture was the point that one can really estimate and predict the future of a product. And one can build up scenarios. It's called an approach called scenario technology. One can build up a scenario or different scenarios in which the product or our service whatsoever will be put in, and in which it will be, quotation marks, live. And there, in the meantime, quite powerful mathematical prediction software, which allows me, I have to, don't recall the names, I'm too old for that, but I can send you possible approaches to this, where I can calculate how much is the possibility that certain borders are hit or certain borders are crossed. So I can create from the very beginning, in product development, there is no work put into realization, just in product development, to predict what will happen to the product. But for this one, we have to forget this linear approaches like Parle and Bytes and others, step by step by step by step. We have to think integral. And integrated, that's why the name, design engineering thinks always in integral. There was one picture, there was one chart which I can just, no, where it is, PowerPoint, come on. There is, yeah, I've been, in a minute, I'll tell you the number of the chart, which you would be so kind to put it in. Can you put in chart number 7? Can you put in chart number 7? What is in?
yes. Which slide?
The slide is named "What is Integrated Design Engineering? Parentheses 2 parentheses." That is this guy making this one, and that is on the top is human centricity.
Yeah, okay, number 2, right.
Yeah, well, engine number 2, and just put it up on the, if you can.
Yeah,
Look,
I
that's
think
it.
now
Yeah.
you can see it.
Can the audience see it?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So if we, this slide is a little bit upside down, but let's have a look on the bottom. There you see a product life cycle in a flat format in order to make, otherwise you would have a big circle, you won't understand it. And it creates the product model using a specific way of describing it. This is the attributes which I don't want to go into detail for that, but attributes describe the expected or the wished behavior of a product. It doesn't say about how big, how heavy, how many components. It just says what kind of behavior shall the product have. And this is described by attributes. For those who can read, a minute, I'll be with you in a minute. For those who can read, it is this, the way we're doing here is described in this book. This is a book available by Springer. It costs you about 5 cups of coffee in the most expensive Budapest coffee house. So integrated design engineering, that is in English, this is the English version, and which is covers the latest results of this research work. So we go back to this image. So there you got the attributes out of that. Again, attributes describe what people want, can expect, and these people are three different. This is of course the user. So this is of the person who uses the product. This is secondly the producer of the product. And there is a third group which nobody takes into account. These are the people who are bothered by the product, its creation and its use. So I like my sleep during the night, perhaps as the older ones among you as well. But unfortunately, we have 2 young guys, aged 25, in our street, and they bought a new car, and they like to ride the car at midnight, and at midnight they press the pedal, and the motor says, "Whoo!" and throws you out of the bed. So I'm not interested in riding this car at this time of the night, but I'm bothered by people who use the solution. So we have not to think about producer and user. We have to think about the third group of people. These are the people which are affected by somehow by the use of the product. And this is one of the main differences of the IDE approach compared to others, because the others have only this binary, right? There is the company with the idea, there is the user who uses it. But the biggest number of people are the people who are affected by the product. And this as well is a question of sustainability. Why? Because of these people with their over-exaggeration of things ruin the same environment in which I am in. So they not only spoil my sleep, they as well spoil my situation because I have the same atmosphere and the same situation around in the environment. So that's why we have to take in, when we design a new product, we have to take into account the person who wants it, the person or the organization who creates it, and the environment this object is in, and what effects are made from the object to this environment. So this is the most crucial part of IDE, of working with this area. Is this okay for the as answer?
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
My pleasure.
Maybe next question. I was really interested in the content of the presentation,
Yeah.
and as you know, since the 70s or maybe before 60s, they were talking about limits of growth and the boundaries of the earth and natural resources. Some may argue that we've been living since I don't know, hundreds of years, and climate is changing always, and there is no necessary to do any further steps. How can you argue with such mentality? And the second question, actually, we have this the wedding cake that you were describing, and it's really interesting to view the sustainable development goals in that way. And there are some, voices says that we will not be able to achieve those sustainable development goals. If we can't, what are the alternatives then?
First part of the question is saying, okay, in former times it was not a problem. This is right. However, we have to take two things into account. One thing is that the number of people on the world increased, and they increased even faster. When I grew up, when I was a young guy, so about 120 years ago, there were about 3 billion of people on the world. We are now more than 5 now. So the space is the same. The number of users is much bigger, and every user has his own needs. And we have to accept that we live on an island of happy people because we can use every energy, every resource as much and how and when we like. Unfortunately, 85% of the world can't do that, but they wanted to do it as well. So there are some demographic problems in it, which may cause problems if we, the rich part of the world, consumes environment as fast as it did it before, without thinking that there are other people who would like to have the same feeling. And a lot of migration. So I will not argue now politically, by the way. One reason for migration is that in these countries where people migrate from, there are no more resources available, or not at this time. So they want to survive, which is a human right, and that's why they go to a place where there is a possibility. But we, in our way of dealing with the resources of the world, unfortunately, we are sowing the branch of the tree on which we are sitting, and one for there, okay? So we have to avoid this one. That's what we're doing, this one. We will survive. When I die in, I don't know when, the good God knows, hopefully not yet, the world will still be the same. There are some 3 to 4 generations which will have the same situation as we have. But then it becomes quite close. So we have to start, not tomorrow, now, to do it. And even if one say, well, such a big task, I can't do it. This is right, but he's not alone. Everybody can somehow contribute to the way of saving. And I can tell you, the girls will like you much better when you ride a bike or jump or run instead of sitting in your car and driving 2 kilometers from your sleeping place to your working place. So this is very simply, very idiotically explained, but this is the main issue. And let us ask ourselves when we think about these ideas, do we really need all the stuff which we have at home? Unfortunately, last year, one of my relatives died, and I helped the widow to clean the house. And what you found in there was good for 3 families, right? It was bought once, used once, then put away. But can use it one fine day again. So we build up piles of things which cost energy, cost place, use energy for keeping them alive, and we don't need it. So sustainability is not from politicians, it starts here, or better say up there. If this is well equipped and does work well, then we can be sustainable. So it's... Can you speak Hungarian, by the way, in the meantime?
Kicsit.
Egy kicsit.
Not much.
What I wanted to say is there is a movement in which I was when I was young. This is the Boy Scouts movement. I think Professor Bognar heard about Magyar CiRCLETECH rule. And there are the Boy Scouts. Igen, akkor ezt érted? Ezt érted?
I see not exactly, because I see only the half of your hand.
Yeah, but this is the Hungarian, ez a Magyar CiRCLETECHnek köszönete, Istennek használnak és embertársának.
Igen.
Kötelesség. And in the Boy Scouts, there is one of the Boy Scouts, or the Scouts law, because there are Girl Scouts as well. Fortunately, there are Girl Scouts as well. And one says that a Boy Scout sees the nature and preserves the nature in which he is in. And if everybody would preserve the nature in which she or he is in, we wouldn't have this kind of problems. But we have a society which is mainly built up on using, consuming, and a lot of companies live on consuming and complain if people do not consume, but our resources, unfortunately, have an end. And the problem is that in your lifetime, not in mine, and in Professor Bognar's lifetime, we can't come to different borders of availability of different of special components. And this is a situation which I would not like to offer to you. So, see, sustainability starts here. This is the art. And there is the brain started there. And then we are okay. Otherwise, bingo. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for the answer.
May I give you just a bad answer as well? I acted like a professor. A professor can talk on every topic or on any topic, but at least 15 minutes.
Yeah, no. The answer was really good. No.
Yes.
So I would like to ask the colleagues who are attending this event if they have any question or any remarks. If not, we will not bother the professor anymore. So
let's say can I say an addendum?
yes.
If the audience who is not from university academics, if you are from a company and you need some advice, I would offer that Professor Bognar and myself, and you, of course, would come to your company, have a look around, and then give you an idea of what you can change if you want. And I don't want to make money out of it. If you can pay me my travels, I'm not living in Miskolc, unfortunately. I need to come somehow. But if you would be interested in getting an idea of how possible would be some sustainable means, a realization of these sustainable means in your environment, then please contact Professor Bognar and arrange it with her. So I think, as good consultants always know, in every company there is always a possibility to do things. And I only work for my travel expenses. I don't want to make money out of that. And Professor Bognar can then take some assistants with her who can do the business, of course, under her supervision. And they can make a PhD, for example. Is this a proposition? Everybody profits from it.
Thank you very much for this suggestion. I know that we need that bridge between academics and industry. It's really needed in this way. But yeah, now it's another issue here that those companies would see this benefit because is it profitable or not on the short run or long run? It has different meaning and different perspectives.
I understand.
For industry.
I understand,
Yeah.
but there are, in the meantime, I don't want to go into detail with that. In the meantime, there are enough methods available, easy methods available, to calculate what the benefits would be. And benefits would be saving of money and getting other situations done. So nobody can tell me that doing sustainability is a question of how my idea is or how my opinion is. It can be calculated in business cases. So it makes money for the companies, for the company who starts with it. So this is the point. This is the message, one of the messages.
Yes. So, Aranka, would
May
you like to
I
say something?
have a-
Yes.
Ez egy csókolom.
Yes, yes. Hello, I'm Aranka Pradeshi and I'm working with Mohammed and Gabriela in this project and the colleagues. And I think this topic is especially important for our massive online open course development as well, because it is dealing with the evaluation of business opportunities for circular economies, companies, investments especially. And also, I might say that we could have the possibility to organize a session here in Miskolc during next year, because we are planning on-site sessions as well. So we will discuss these opportunities with Gabriela and Mohammed.
Very good. And if you accept an old guy, far beyond 65, so
why not? It's this is just a number. I mean, age is just a number. So I think it doesn't depend on how old we are. We can have always have good ideas and very, very good contributions. And I saw this very useful. So thank you for all.
nagyon szívesen, és miután mégis magyarok vannak itt csak, ugye? Akkor egyszer nagyon szépen megköszönöm, hogy szabad volt itt beszélni, és nagyon élveztem, mert hát ez nekem most már ritkában van, és hát örömmel is látom, ezek a szerencsétlen számítógépes rendszerek is egyszer is képesek működni az úr segítségével, de ilyen szempontból miért nem?
Okay, I think by this point we reached the end of our fruitful meeting today. I know that the start or the kickoff of this meeting wasn't what we wanted, but I hope that our audience got something new today with this enjoyable I wouldn't say lecture, but also let's say event. And I would like to thank you all on behalf of CiRCLETECH project team. Thank you very much and have a nice day, everyone.
Nagyon szépen köszönöm, és bocsánat, van még egy kérdés, az úrnak van kérdése, tessék parancsoljon.
Köszönöm szépen, csak köszönjük az előadást, csak elköszöntem, hogy további szép napot.
Jó, köszönöm, itt éppen kezdődik esni az eső. Amit akartam még mondani, a e-mail címe megvan a Bognár professzor úrnál, tehát ha valakinek lenne kérdése, és akkor tessék írni, magyarul is írjanak, próbálom megérteni, sosem voltam magyar iskolában, de mondjuk, hogy köszönöm szépen, tudok mondani. Tehát, ha kérdések lennének, nagyon szívesen. Jó?
Okay. So,
köszönjük.
One last thing, that you will receive a recording of this session because it was automatically recorded. And everyone who's registered with their email will receive the link automatically after the end. Yes. And we will upload it, of course, on our website. So it will be available also in the future.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
I send it to Professor Bognár, and she can do it what she wants. So if she wants to tear it apart, she may tear it apart.
We also will also share the presentation if you don't mind that.
No, it's fine with me.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, everyone, thank you very much for being here today and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Köszönöm szépen.
Köszönjük szépen, viszontlátásra.
Viszontlátásra, minden jókat, és jó egészséget, és jó kaját.